Diddy has been rushed to the hospital following a brutal attack in prison. Authorities are now saying that he may not survive, and the world is watching as his condition remains critical. The details emerging are more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. Just a few days ago, Diddy was taken to the hospital for knee pain and an MRI scan, which many believed was a minor health issue. However, this time the situation is far more serious, and his life may now be at grave risk. This latest hospital visit is no routine checkup.
Combs reportedly underwent treatment in a hospital as he continues to await trial. The 5-year-old was transported from Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, the federal prison where he was sent following his September arrest, late January 30th to undergo an MRI and was then soon returned to police custody later that night. The outlet cites a source as saying that the medical scan was authorized because his knee was bothering him. E! News has reached out to reps for Diddy and the Federal Bureau of Prisons for comment and has not heard back. The Grammy winner's attorney, Mark Agnafilo, tells TMZ, quote, "I cannot comment on anything related to prisoner movements. Also, I'm not commenting on anything related to possible medical issues." Diddy had shared in a since-deleted Instagram post in 2017 that he had undergone his 3rd knee surgery in a year. The Federal Bureau of Prisons has neither confirmed nor denied the reports about Diddy's hospital visit. A spokesperson for the government agency tells the New York Post, quote, "For privacy, safety, and security reasons, we do not comment on the conditions of confinement for anyone in our custody to include medical status or medical trips." The hospital visit allegedly took place hours after federal prosecutors filed a new criminal indictment against the rap mogul, accusing him of coercing 2 additional women, as the original September indictment had referenced 1 female victim. In a statement to E! News January 30th, he says, quote, "The prosecution's theory remains flawed. The government has added the ridiculous theory that 2 of Mr. Combs' former girlfriends were not girlfriends at all, but is against him, and his trial is set to begin May 5th.
Diddy is fighting for survival after suffering a vicious assault inside the prison walls. According to insider sources, Diddy was violently attacked by another inmate earlier today, leaving him with severe injuries. The incident occurred in the prison yard, where Diddy was reportedly ambushed by multiple individuals. Authorities say he was beaten unconscious and suffered life-threatening injuries, including internal bleeding and a fractured skull. He was immediately rushed to the hospital, where he remains in critical condition. Medical staff have reportedly told his family to prepare for the worst, as his chances of survival are slim. According to multiple sources, Diddy was ambushed inside the prison, suffering severe injuries that required immediate medical attention. Reports indicate that the attack was planned, and authorities are now investigating whether this was a targeted hit. Eyewitnesses claim that the scene was chaotic, with prison guards rushing to break up the attack while medical personnel were called in to stabilize Diddy before he was transported to a nearby hospital.
P. Diddy leaves the Metropolitan Detention Center jail in Brooklyn. New reports say he was taken to the hospital for a few hours last week to get an MRI. We're just now learning about this, though, because Diddy was taken from the jail late at night, actually using the cover of darkness to keep his trip on the down low. So what do we know about this trip? We're going to go through everything we know so far, plus a little more. We're actually going to sit down with Dr. D. Wayne Hendricks, a former corrections officer and deputy warden at MDC, the very jail Diddy's being held at right now. But before we get into all of that, here's a quick recap of how we got here. In September of last year, Diddy was indicted by a federal grand jury on charges. Charges came down after multiple civil suits against Diddy were already filed, accusing him of facilitating a keep on coming. Right now, we're actually at more than 40 filed against Diddy. There's an eerie pattern shown throughout all of these civil suits and the criminal one too, that Diddy or his associates would draw as blackmail to force the survivors to keep quiet. But let's just keep in mind, all of this is alleged at this point. Diddy has already pleaded not guilty to his federal charges. But just last week, we actually got some new info about those charges in a superseding indictment. To start with the very basics, the feds now say Diddy's alleged.
Social media has exploded with reactions to the news, with hashtags like #Diddy Hospitalized and #Pray for Diddy trending worldwide. Fans of the music mogul are expressing shock, heartbreak, and outrage, calling for justice and better protection for Diddy while he's behind bars. Many are questioning how someone as high profile as Diddy could be left so vulnerable in prison. At the same time, critics are pointing to the attack as a stark reminder of the consequences of his alleged actions, with some saying he's reaping what he sowed. Let's take a closer look at how this story unfolded. Just a few days ago, Diddy was sent to the hospital for what was initially reported as knee pain. He underwent an MRI and was treated for what appeared to be a minor issue. However, insiders now reveal that even during that visit, Diddy was visibly shaken and fearful for his safety. He reportedly told medical staff, "I don't feel safe there. They're coming for me."
The new indictment got a bit more specific in all of this too, doubling down on the allegations that Diddy took victims across state lines and sometimes even international. Combs subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse to cause the victims to engage control over his victims through, among other things, physical violence, promises of career and financial opportunities, granting and threatening to withhold financial support, and by other coercive means, including tracking their whereabouts, dictating the victim's appearance, monitoring their medical records, controlling their housing, and supplying them with controlled substances. During and separate, among other things, hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims, at times by their hair. These assaults often resulted in injuries that took days or weeks to heal. Following the assaults, Combs, with the assistance of members and associates of the enterprise, frequently worked to conceal his misconduct by offering to provide medical assistance or other financial benefits to the victims. A different part of the indictment reads, quote, "When employees, witnesses to his abuse, or others threatened Combs' authority or reputation, Combs and members and associates of the enterprise engaged in acts of violence, threats of financial and reputational harm, and verbal abuse. These acts of violence included arson and multiple acts of kidnapping, including one instance of kidnapping during which Combs carried and displayed a firearm. In addition, on multiple occasions, Combs threw both objects and people, as well as hit, dragged, choked, and shoved others. On one occasion, Combs dangled a victim over an apartment balcony." Here's where we've got to insert a statement from Diddy's team, specifically his attorney Mark Agnifilo.
Sadly, his fears have now become a terrifying reality. The attack comes amid Diddy's ongoing legal battle, which has been one of the most closely watched cases in recent memory. Diddy, whose real name is Sean Combs, was arrested and charged earlier this year following a series of allegations that have rocked the music industry. The charges range from workplace harassment to more serious claims of abuse, and the case has been a source of intense scrutiny. Diddy has consistently denied the allegations, calling them false and defamatory, but his life in prison has become a focal point of the ongoing drama. Social media is exploding with reactions, with hashtags like #PrayForDiddy and #Diddy Hospitalized trending worldwide. Some fans are in complete shock, fearing that this could be the end for the music mogul, while critics argue that prison justice has caught up with him. The question remains, was this a random act of violence, or was Diddy specifically targeted?
P. Diddy ringing in the new year with a jailhouse meltdown, at least according to some new reports. All this comes as the disgraced singer spends his first holiday season behind bars, and a judge rules one of his accusers can remain anonymous. By now you're well aware that 55-year-old Sean Combs, also known as P. Diddy, is being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. He's facing federal charges of The charges came down in September when a grand jury indicted Diddy, half a year after those federal raids were first performed on his homes. Since he was booked, Diddy has made several bids for bail, hoping to get back to one of those homes or an apartment on New York's Upper East Side. Just last month, Diddy's team officially put in its third attempt for his release, asking that he be put on house arrest. The defense originally wanted Diddy to be held on house arrest at his Star Island mansion in Miami, Florida, one of the places that was actually raided way back in March. But Judge Arun Subramanian shot that down pretty quickly, and it was decided if Diddy was granted bail, he'd be staying in New York, specifically on the Upper East Side in a 3-bedroom apartment. That bail would have come with a $50 million price tag and some major restrictions on Diddy's house arrest. Inside the apartment, there would be 2 live-in guards and another guard downstairs. Diddy wouldn't be allowed to access any phones or the internet unless it was used to contact his legal team. And on top of all of that, there would be a vetted list of people approved to visit Diddy, including his legal counsel and, of course, his family. Diddy's attorney, Mark Agnifilo, said there was a 0% chance that Diddy would be violent if he was released, and even called the bail package a, quote, very, very rigorous set of conditions. This part is wild. He said it was even more strict than the MDC jail.
Friends and associates of Diddy have been quick to express their outrage, calling the attack unacceptable and inhumane. They argue that Diddy, despite the allegations against him, deserves to be treated with basic human dignity and protected from harm. However, others close to the case suggest that Diddy's struggles in prison are a direct result of his alleged actions and the notoriety surrounding his case. Legal experts weigh in, suggesting that the attack could have serious implications for Diddy's legal battle, potentially swaying public opinion and even influencing the judge's decision. Authorities have yet to release an official statement on who was behind the attack, but insiders suggest that Diddy's high-profile status made him a major target within the prison walls. Some sources claim that he had been receiving threats for weeks, while others believe that rival inmates saw an opportunity to make a statement by going after one of the most powerful figures in music history. This isn't just a story about Diddy.
Some of the reports are that P. Diddy had a breakdown or meltdown over the holidays when he is still at MDC behind bars. What do you make of those reports? Could he have had this meltdown?
I believe the reports, and obviously Diddy is someone who's rich and famous and has lived a life of luxury for many years, and now he's in federal prison during the holidays. So this isn't someone who's a hardened criminal who has spent a lot of time in custody. So the fact that he's spending Christmas and New Year's and future holidays in prison is probably finally getting to him. So I'm not surprised that he cracked.
You're right, it's definitely a change of tune from his lavish mansions and the holiday season to what he's experiencing right now. As far as the mental health side of things, I remember when Diddy was first arrested health. Here in this instance, he apparently was asking for the guards to take him to the hospital so he could be treated there. Is this something that we're going to keep an eye on, Diddy's mental health behind bars?
I think so, and obviously, we haven't seen him, but your colleague Elizabeth has reported that he looks like he's lost some weight and he has some more gray and white hairs. I think it's taken a toll on him, and I think that he expected for some reason that he would be out on bond, and obviously that hasn't happened. There were 3 different bail applications that were denied by 3 different judges, and ultimately they withdrew their appeal. So now that it's hitting him that Diddy's going to be in custody at least until May 2025, I think he's just having a tough time coming to terms with it, because like you said, here's someone that had multiple private jets, homes in New York, Miami, Los Angeles, and all of a sudden his only home is his prison cell.
It's about the broader issues of safety and accountability within the prison system. The attack has sparked important conversations about how high-profile inmates are treated and whether the system is equipped to protect them. Some are calling for reforms to ensure that all prisoners, regardless of their status, are kept safe from harm. Others argue that Diddy's situation is a consequence of his alleged actions and that he must face the realities of prison life. Reports from inside the prison suggest that Diddy had been living in constant fear, knowing that he was not safe. Some sources say he had requested additional protection, but those requests were ignored or denied due to the high-profile nature of his case. Now, with his life hanging in the balance, many are questioning whether the prison system failed to protect him from this violent attack. As the case continues to unfold, one question looms large. What's next for Diddy? Will he survive this brutal attack?
Talking about Diddy, last time I talked to you, he was in a different part of MDC, a secure location for potentially high-profile inmates. Now, could it be that P. Diddy is in Gen Pop or general population?
Yes, I'm assuming that after doing a threat assessment on him after being there for several weeks, it was determined that he could be housed in a general population unit. And it's been my experience when I was there, several years ago. We have a east and a west building, and typically we had, since it's a detention center, you have all types of individuals there, high security, low security minimum. And then you have folks like former law enforcement officers, and then folks that may have been compromised. And you also have sex offenders that are detainees. So what we would do, sometimes we would house some of our high profile individuals with former law enforcement who are facing charges for whatever criminal behavior that they were being alleged to have committed, as well as sex offenders, because typically when you put those two types of populations together, there's typically less jailhouse politics involved, and there's minimal risk to being harmed or endangered. So I'm assuming, from what I understand, he's in the West Building, which is it's an open bay unit. So they're not cells, they're like a dormitory style units, and they're open. And again, typically there's your low-level offenders, typically possible sex offenders, alleged sex offenders, as well as former law enforcement who are facing charges. So I'm sure that's probably where he's being housed right now.
We're also getting some interesting reports since he's been moved to this area. One of the reports or tips we got is that other inmates are actually making Diddy's bed for him.
Or will this be the tragic end of his story? And how will this incident impact his legal case and public image? For now, all eyes are on the hospital and the prison system as the world waits to see how this story will unfold. Meanwhile, doctors at the hospital are fighting to keep him alive. Early reports indicate that Diddy suffered multiple injuries, including head trauma, broken ribs, and severe internal bleeding. Medical experts say the next 24 hours will be critical in determining whether he will pull through. Some insiders close to the case have even suggested that if he does survive, his condition may never be the same again. Legal analysts are now weighing in on how this could impact Diddy's ongoing legal battles. Some believe that his health condition could influence future court proceedings, while others speculate that this incident might push authorities to move him to a different facility for his own safety. Could this attack change the course of his case, or will the legal system continue forward as planned? At the same time, law enforcement officials are scrambling to determine who was behind the attack.
Is it inside this federal lockup? There have been 2 murders, 4 suicides, and numerous stabbings and lockdowns in recent years. It's so out of control inside that 4 federal judges are reportedly refusing to send any more prisoners here. Donald Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen, spent a harrowing year in federal custody. He says for someone used to a life of luxury like Diddy, prison life is a severe shock.
You have a desk, you have a plastic chair, you have your bed with a 1.5-inch mattress, no pillow, and you also have a locker. So you basically have 3 feet by 5 feet to move around. So you have a basic 15 square feet. It is a horrible, horrible place.
Diddy's lawyers were so eager to keep him out of jail, they offered his palatial $48 million home in Miami Beach and his private jets as bail. Today, they are even offering to restrict female visitors to his homes, except for his mother, daughters, and the mothers of his children if he is released. They told the judge the jail he was being sent to is dreadful, dirty, inhuman, and an ongoing tragedy.
How's your dad doing? How's your dad doing?
Family members appeared somber as they arrived at federal court in Manhattan today in another attempt to get out on bail. The judge cited Diddy's history of violent temper and potential intimidation of witnesses as reasons for keeping him behind bars. Diddy's former protege, singer Aubrey O'Day, is celebrating Diddy's downfall today. "I feel validated, a win for women all over the world."
Combs has pled not guilty. Those were the only words he uttered in court yesterday.
And whether more violence could be expected. Prison officials are conducting round-the-clock interrogations of inmates who may have witnessed the incident, and early reports suggest that this was not an isolated event. Could there be a larger conspiracy at play? Inside sources are also revealing shocking new details about the moments leading up to the attack. Reports indicate that Diddy may have been set up, with inmates deliberately luring him into a vulnerable position before launching their brutal assault. Some are even speculating that prison guards may have turned a blind eye, allowing the attack to happen. The music industry is reeling from the news, with several high-profile celebrities expressing their shock and concern. Some of Diddy's closest associates have taken to social media to demand justice and answers, while others are remaining eerily silent. Could this event send shockwaves through the entertainment industry, leading to more revelations about the conditions inside the prison system?
Combs' team says, look, even if this did happen, which they insist it didn't, this case is time barred. The statute of limitations has run out. According to the filing in 1997, when this alleged assault happened, the statute of limitations was 3 years to bring a claim. So the court ruled because plaintiff's claim is time barred, the court grants the motion to dismiss. And what about that interlocutory appeal? What is that, by the way? So that's basically an appeal of a judge's order about a specific issue while the main case is still going on. So you're appealing an issue while the case still proceeds, but if that issue is heard and decided by a higher court, it can definitely have an effect on the entirety of the case. So here, for example, with respect to an interlocutory appeal, it's about moving the case to state court from federal court. So as the court's order mentions, interlocutory appeals, they are, quote, granted sparingly and only in exceptional cases. But there's a bigger issue why an interlocutory appeal doesn't work here. The court writes, granting permission for an interlocutory appeal would not accelerate the conclusion of this litigation because this litigation has now reached a final conclusion. Accordingly, plaintiff's motion for permission to file an interlocutory appeal is denied. Basically, it's moot. It's over. There's no point of it. Then there's the third order on sanctions. So Combs' lawyers want Cardello Smith to be punished in some way for what they say amounts basically to harassment and extortion. We've talked about this before on other sidebars, that if you're a lawyer or you're representing yourself, you can't file frivolous claims and frivolous complaints and frivolous motions. They have to be backed up by the facts, the law. They can't be done just to harass or intimidate anybody. Otherwise, you're going to get on the bad side of the court and you'll be punished. So Combs' team writes, defendant provides several grounds for his request. He alleges that plaintiff, again talking about Cardello Smith, that plaintiff's allegations are wholesale fabrications.
The situation remains extremely tense, with doctors, authorities, and legal experts closely monitoring every development. Meanwhile, rumors continue to swirl about Diddy's true condition, with some sources claiming that his injuries are far worse than officials are letting on. Is there a cover-up happening behind the scenes? Or is this just another layer in the growing mystery surrounding his case? With so many unanswered questions, the world is now waiting for the next big update. Will Diddy survive this attack? Or is this the end of his story? The next few hours could be life or death, and as new details emerge, we'll keep you updated on every shocking development. Reports also indicate that Diddy's legal team is considering filing lawsuits against the prison for negligence, claiming that their failure to act on previous threats directly led to this attack. If this happens, it could result in massive repercussions for the correctional facility. Meanwhile, fans and supporters have started gathering outside the hospital, holding vigils and demanding better treatment for high-profile inmates.
2012, you gotta wonder if there's surveillance video. Maybe that's still available. That could be discovered and produced to prove he was actually there. Once inside, Doe danced and socialized and was invited from the public crowd to a table in the private table area of the club. Soon after, he was invited to another table, which he realized was defendant Combs' table. At Combs' table, there were approximately 12 people, including women, entourage members, security, and ostensibly other guests. At the table, Combs and his entourage distributed Ciroc vodka to those at the table, handing a shot to Doe. At some point, Doe saw Combs whisper to someone in his entourage before immediately leaving the table. Moments later, an individual approached Doe and invited him to a back room. The request was firm. Doe followed as instructed. In the back room, various people unknown to Doe were smoking weed and using cocaine. Many members of Combs' entourage were also present, as were what appeared to be strippers and escorts, both male and female. In this crowd, Doe spotted Combs. Doe sat 3 to 4 seats away, but Combs soon moved closer. At that point, Combs handed Doe another shot of Ciroc, which Doe drank. Doe and Combs then talked about music, modeling, the city, and the entertainment industry as a whole. At some point, Doe began to realize something was wrong. Doe began to become hazy and disoriented. Things became unclear. Doe could feel himself losing consciousness and control of his body. It became clear to Doe that the 2 drinks he was given were spiked with something, and that he had been drugged with a substance that was impacting his faculties. A photograph of an actual exemplary container used by Combs and/or his agents' employees to insert GHB in alcoholic drinks is seen below. Now, that is a photo that has appeared in other Tony Busby lawsuits as well. And moreover, that allegation of drugging, that has been repeated in multiple lawsuits and the federal criminal indictment as well. Going back to the lawsuit, quote, Doe began to go in and out of consciousness.
The media is closely following the developments, with news outlets broadcasting hourly updates on Diddy's condition. New leaks have suggested that prison authorities were aware of a potential attack but chose not to act. If these allegations prove true, it could shake the entire justice system and lead to major reforms in prison safety policies. Some insiders claim that Diddy was intentionally placed in harm's way, raising even more questions about the true nature of this attack. With tensions rising and uncertainty looming, the next few hours will determine Diddy's fate. Will he recover, or is this the tragic downfall of a once great music icon? Only time will tell. So, what do you think? Was Diddy's attack an act of random prison violence, or was he deliberately targeted? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated on all the latest breaking news. We'll see you in the next video.